It is Friday, and it is March 20th. I don't even know the date. March 23rd. It's Friday, March 23rd, and this is Dream and Code Live, episode number 2. If you, and yes, my hair's missing. My hair is gone. I cut my hair off earlier today. Now, if you watched the last episode, you'll know that today's actually episode 2 because last week was episode 1.1 as we decided to label, well, I decided to label it. I didn't really give that much of a vote. So, yes, my hair is gone. That's a big surprise. But that just, I felt that the amount of hair I was gaining was distracting, you know? It was distracting from the awesomeness of the beard, you know? And now you just have, the focus is right here now. Except for a little bit of shininess from the lights above me. The great thing about hair is it often grows back. Sometimes. Alright, the first thing I want to actually talk about, and pardon if I sound a little weird, I've been sick all week and I'm just now getting over it, so I'm in that phlegmy stage. It's disgusting. Yes, the first thing I want to discuss is going back to the chat system. This is the last time I'm going to mention it because every episode from here on out will just automatically assume that you've watched these episodes or that you know something about the Dream and Code thing. We're going to have to set up something with this. But I'm going to go into tutorial mode. And yes, we're not using Ustream chat because of the chat problems that we've come across. Instead, you're going to go to the Dream and Code page and scroll down to where you see Join Our IRC Chat. And when you join that, you're going to click Connect, and you're going to come across the web chat window. It looks similar to this. And this is where we're all hanging out and talking. We're all you fantastic people. We're having fantastic discussions in fantastic land. I'm going to drag this out over here. You're not supposed to see that yet. Back to me. Actually, let me close this window a little bit. Perfect! I need a better IRC chat system. I got to stop using the web-based one. So, it's like nearly impossible for me to see chat right now. So just give me a moment. That's good enough. Yes, I can see your beautiful text. I have notes. I actually wrote notes today on what we're going to cover this episode, and I put the really important stuff in red. I don't know if you can see that. All the really important stuff we're going to cover is in red. So the first topic actually is going to be about, it's going to actually go into a thread that number 2 Pencil actually pointed out to me. The thread is called The Next Biggest Thing on the Web. I know that we've probably seen our fair share of these kind of posts often on Dream and Code, and this is where somebody comes up and says, I have this amazing idea. It's the best idea you're ever going to hear. Ever. And if you don't help me, then you're an idiot. I just want to point out, and this is more, I mean, most of you realize what the problem here is, but for those that are curious, to have ideas aren't the problem. I have millions of ideas a day. The problem comes in having some sort of practicality behind it and understanding the process that goes into making these ideas possible and actually producing something, which is the case with game development in this guy's situation, is that he's proposing this idea. He doesn't have any experience with programming. He doesn't know the actual process, the process that goes into actually developing a game. You have to actually spend a little money to make money. So when people say, what's your investment in this, they're expecting you to actually have some sort of investment as project and not actually looking to just take advantage of some developers and get your stuff made because you don't know how to code yourself. This is actually one of the reasons why I started learning how to program. I had a few ideas for some software way back, a long time ago. I was still in high school. And I sat down and taught myself how to program. It was BASIC. BASIC was the first programming language I ever messed with. The original BASIC, not like Quick Basic or anything, just BASIC on a DOS 6.22. That was interesting. BASIC is for gays. Number 2 Pencil is for the gays. I shouldn't say stuff like that on the live stream, but the channel is just teasing me right now. So, yeah, Garba Harba or Gabe Hay from the channel, I've actually talked to him. He says that one day he will make it to a live stream and hopefully be the guest. He's promised me. This week he said he's actually at a festival, a music festival, which means he's probably drunk right now. So we'll have him on the show definitely, and we'll see how that goes. I've talked to him on Skype before, and it'll be fun. So expect stuff like that. Next episode, I've talked to Dogstopper from the forums, and we're going to have some discussions with him. But today, our guest is Raynes from the forums. Actually, let me get into something real quick. My notes aren't in order. They're just covered in red. I just highlight everything. Let me talk about the YouTube channel, because this is sort of a new thing that just happened after the last episode. Number 2 Pencil set up a YouTube channel for us, and it's youtube.com/user/weekly DIC, weekly and this is where all the past episodes are going to be available. So this episode, once it's done recording, we're done. It's going to get processed and put onto YouTube, thanks to a friend of his who actually managed to get the YouTube channel upgraded to 1-hour length videos rather than 15 minutes. So that was, I'd like to send out personal thanks to him for making that possible. But all the videos are going to be there. The last episode, so this episode will be available recorded on Ustream. But due to the space restrictions, only the last episode will be available on Ustream to watch pre-recorded. All episodes before the last episode are going to be archived to YouTube, where you can go see them right there in that channel. And another thanks to Number 2 Pencil for making this all possible. He gave me an audio commercial, and funny enough is that I don't have it on my Windows system. I didn't copy it over before the show. Next episode, I guarantee I'll have his little audio commercial. I was going to rip so much into it because it's hilarious. I don't know if you know from the forums, Kaya, Kya, he voiced the commercial, and it was just amazing. So I definitely want to play that commercial for you guys when next episode. So, anyways, Raynes. I'm going to put my headset on because I can't hear anything without it. Raynes is a expert on the forum and a forum leader in respects to the other programming languages, which is what we are going to talk about today. So Raynes is also a big guy when it comes to functional programming and Clojure and stuff like that. And so we're going to have a discussion with him today. How's it going, Raynes? Or Anthony Grimes?
Hello there, sir.
Mr. Grimes. I'm getting tired of these little ads that pop up on Skype. I'm telling you.
I haven't seen a single one. Maybe they only happen on Windows.
Probably.
Everything bad happens on Windows, right?
That's why I wouldn't say Windows is bad. I can see the benefits of all operating systems. I've used them all very
I haven't used Windows in a long time.
I use Windows for this web show because the streaming stuff for Linux isn't necessarily the greatest in comparison. I have some pretty good tools available on Windows side. But we are going to cover the section that you may be familiar with. I know Raynes is familiar with, but in case you didn't know, if you go to the website here, I'll show you it on if you scroll down here with the programming help and stuff, right here where it says other languages, there's actually, if you click on that, you're going to get brought to the page where you have functional programming, assembly, Perl, all those sort of languages that don't really fit into the norm mainstream languages. So we're going to talk to you today about that. And my question to you is what would you say is, what do you think about being labeled as that other programming languages guy anyways?
I think it's great. I mean, I'm the one that gets to tell people about new technologies and exciting new things that they may have not heard about. I like that.
Oh, sorry, I was drinking. Speaking of which, to show this thing on the show, this is a wine bottle that was given to me as a gift from my brother. And just look at the size of this thing. This is complete impractical. Who's the designer that saw it? We need a bottle. We need a good bottle, something that really sells. But I want it to be so impractical that people are just like, ugh, and drinking out of it. You couldn't make it any less practical unless they put like spikes on the bottle to where you just injure yourself and begin to bleed out every time you lift it up. And that's why I just stick to Powerade. So, first question for you is what exactly, well, technically the second question, but what exactly is an other language? What would your definition of an other language be?
Well, my definition and Dream and Code's definition is completely different. Dream and Code's definition of an other language is any language that doesn't have enough users on Dream and Code to warrant creating a separate forum for them on the main forum list. So,
Right.
I mean, that makes sense, but another language, my definition would probably be any language that just isn't mainstream, you know. For example, COBOL by Dream and Code's definition would be an other language, but it wouldn't be by my definition.
A
Things
language
like
not in common
Clojure,
use.
yes. Clojure, Haskell, any language that isn't considered mainstream, that may not
Right.
be known by everybody.
Do you think that might apply to some sort of like a NoSQL? That it's kind of a newer thing, that going away from SQL, that might be considered another thing, not exactly mainstream, although it is picking up in popularity.
Yeah, definitely. It's a new technology. Not everybody's using it. A lot of people are. It's growing, but
So not necessarily just old stuff that nobody uses anymore, but also new stuff that not many people are aware of, or it's really gotten that attention that it deserves, may or may not deserve.
right.
There may be a fine line between an other language that has a promise and a completely stupid language that has no point in ever being created.
Yeah.
Which
MATLAB?
they
Well,
do.
no, MATLAB. That was stupid. MATLAB has purpose.
I'm thinking more
That's
the
why
lines of like lol code.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That's a good one.
Or what was the white space, I think it's called? It's just
Yeah, white space. The entire language is white space. That was a good one.
All right. So I know that your kind of speciality in regards to the other languages are the functional languages, right?
Right.
So explain to the viewers that may not be aware what a functional language is. You know, in a little short description, of course. I'll actually show the page here from Wikipedia.
Yeah, it's really a complicated question because everybody has a different definition of what constitutes a functional language. But what all of them have in common is that they have functions as first-class values,
Yeah.
like any other value, like a string, an integer, anything like that. Functions are on the same level. You can pass them around to other functions, like any other value. You can store them in data structures. That's one of the main things about it. Plus, functional language, they encourage purity and immutability. Like, for example, if you have an array and you want to add an element to that array, you don't add the element to the array in place. You create a new array with that element added, and you return that array. I mean, it's hard to understand unless you use it, and you know.
So it's immutable. Everything's immutable by nature or something.
Yeah, I mean, not every functional language, you know, not every language that's considered functional necessarily is completely immutable. For example, Clojure, you know, it encourages functional programming, and its built-in data structures are completely immutable and persistent, but I don't want to go into that right now.
Looks like some people are getting ads. Like as soon as we start talking about what a functional language is, they got ads. Perfect timing.
Yeah.
Perfect timing. Well, let me tell you what a functional language is. Depends for men.
But yeah, like Java, you know, it has the mutable arrays that you modify in place. You can use those from Clojure just as easily as anything else in Clojure. So, I mean, you're not necessarily confined to immutable data structures.
Speaking of Clojure, I know that you've been doing a lot of work with Clojure in your life. Why don't you talk a little bit about that language?
Yeah, Clojure is it's a new Lisp. It's created by Rich Hickey just a couple of years ago, but it's growing really fast. It's on the JVM like Java and Scala and all these new languages, JRuby, Python. So it has access to all those Java libraries, which is one of the reasons that it's gotten so popular so fast.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have the initial problem of there being no libraries. The moment it was created, you could do stuff with it, real stuff.
Right, because it's got all the back end to it that other languages that come out that are like a little other language don't really have that much built-in stuff right away.
Yeah.
So I guess that was one of the that could have been one of the reasons why it's picking up in popularity and stuff. I know that I'm hearing more and more about Clojure every day, and I'm seeing it. Some of the stuff you've shown me and some of the stuff I found by myself is that there's more and more stuff popping up. For instance, since I have this tab open, I might as well discuss this. Is the Web Noir, the Clojure web framework, although it's labeled as a web framework on their site. I know you disagree with the use of the word framework.
Yeah, it's more of a library than a framework.
It says micro framework on their website. So that it's kind of like saying that you can make websites with Clojure the same way you can with some other languages like Ruby, of course, because they have Rails, but it's not comparable to Rails. You mentioned it's more comparable to Ruby's Sinatra web framework.
Yeah, it's more comparable to, just libraries. Like, there's no real framework portion of it. It's just code that you call out to. You structure your project however you want. I mean, of course, there are, guidelines to make sure that you don't do stupid things, but, yeah.
I know that. Tell me about the community behind Clojure. I know you've been involved with them pretty an awful lot.
Clojure's community is amazing. It's probably the primary reason that I love Clojure so much. The people behind the language they're so smart, and I mean I've never met people who are as kind as these people. Like, you remember how I posted about going to the conference, the first Clojure Conj conference 2 years ago? You remember that, right?
Yes, I do.
I mean,
people watching don't, but
yeah, I mean, I was 16 years old. I didn't have a job, and they paid my way into the conference. They flew me out there, paid for my hotel room. It gave me spending money to use to buy food while I was there and shop a little bit. I mean, I can't put it into words how I felt.
I compare it to. Number 2 pencil in the forums actually pointed out that it's unlike C and Linux where everybody just attacks each other. There's a certain level of elitism in some languages kind of deters new people from coming on board. They're afraid of getting ridiculed because they don't know anything about the language. So a lot of those people
has that.
So, yes. So there's a lot of elitism in some of it, particularly some of the more mainstream older languages. But I'm finding that a lot of these newer languages and these other languages are a lot more accepting of people, and they enjoy the community aspect, much like Dream of Code, because Dream of Code is more than a web form. It's an entire community that if you actually get involved with Dream of Code, you actually start to talk to some of the people involved and meet up with these people, and you actually feel like a part of the community rather than just posting questions and waiting for answers and telling everybody how great your idea is.
Yeah. I mean, think of it like this. Clojure, it's built on the JVM. The majority of people who are coming to Clojure and they use Clojure right now were actually Java programmers before they were Clojure programmers. Some of them, the other large portion come from Ruby.
Yeah.
So,
I know
definitely.
I know Ruby. Me being a Ruby developer, I can see that there's a lot of in the Ruby community. There's a lot of friendliness. There's so much information out there. People are just more than willing to just put out that information. Multiple, like if you want to do a little search for things, I find that older languages have the more elitist programmers and a little harder for people to understand and get involved with. There's a lot of documentation because they've been around for a long time. These newer languages have so much documentation in comparison too, but it's all just people just willing to give out willing to teach people. I think that's important for a language to become mainstream.
Absolutely.
Speaking of that, what do you think maybe some other requirements for a language to become mainstream, like with Ruby did when it was like an other language, and then recent years it's gotten a lot of attention through stuff like GitHub and Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, you have to offer something that nobody else offers. You have to bring something new to the table, for one. You have to have a good community. You have to have people who are nice. You have to have smart people behind the technology itself. It has to be a worthwhile technology, or there's no point in it becoming mainstream. But it needs to be practical. That's the thing, a lot of people with Haskell, it's a completely pure functional programming language, and sometimes it can be hard to just get things done with it. And
Yeah.
that's one of the big arguments against Haskell. That's one of the reasons that Clojure exists. Clojure is made to be a practical language to use for real things. It's not academic in any way whatsoever.
Sounds like a great language. I'm actually interested in picking up and checking it out. I've been pretty busy with some other things, so I haven't really had time. I know that there's so many. I encourage anybody who thinks that they may want to try another language to go ahead and check it out, because back when before I started Ruby, I just wanted to mess around with it. I was like, I heard about it, and it was kind of like, it wasn't as big as it is now. Not to sound like, I was in there at the ground floor. No, I just kind of jumped on it to mess around with it, and I loved it. But it also teaches you about programming itself, to actually work with a language outside of what you're used to. You may realize some things about the language you're working with, and some things that it does
Yes.
better or wrong or worse.
Yeah. I mean, I encourage people who are listening to this, don't be afraid of functional programming. It's not hard. It's different. Yeah, it's different, but you just got to work with it for a little while. I mean, if you start with Haskell, yeah, it's probably going to kick your ass a little bit, but
I,
yeah, I
I don't
mean,
know how well people can hear my keyboard. I actually put it on top of a sweater, because I know last episode, every time I clicked, it was like hammer. It's just going boof, 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 boof. So I actually put it on top of a sweater to try to soften it.
yeah, I can't hear it over here.
The people in the forum or the chat channel are asking about this, so we might as well talk about it. And that's your book. You're actually writing a book, right?
Indeed, yes, I am.
Can you tell us about the subject and the content, or give us a little hint at some some awesomeness in it?
Well, the most important thing about my book is, how Haskell and Erlang and pretty much every popular language and functional language, newer functional language, they all have a free book online.
Yeah.
For example, Haskell has two, Learn You a Haskell and Real World Haskell, and Erlang has, what do they have? Something like Learn You a Haskell, but it's for Erlang. But the point is, they're online and they're free. Now, there are tutorials and stuff and introductory text for Clojure all over the web, but there's no real book, no solid resource for learning the language.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do. I'm writing a book that will be freely available online. It's actually from the same publisher as Learn You a Haskell, and it'll be freely available online. It'll be sold in print form too. So yeah.
That sounds pretty amazing, and quite an accomplishment for those people that are interested. And I know you're still pretty young, and you're working in a company with Clojure, so that's pretty amazing for you. And you're writing a book. You have some other stuff we're going to talk about. Can you give any advice to those people that want to get involved with something like Clojure or some other language, and actually find success in their careers?
Yeah, I mean, just pick a language that you want to learn. If it's Clojure, Haskell, whatever. I mean, Haskell, it's probably 20 years old, but it's just now getting out there. It's just now hitting the mainstream.
Yeah.
Not really mainstream, but it's getting out there. So Haskell, Clojure, whatever you want to do, just grab a book, read it, write some stuff.
Yeah.
Put yourself into the community. Get into the community. That's the most important thing. Make friends in the community. Go to user groups. Go to conferences.
Yeah.
Before long, you'll be in there.
I want to make the comment. I know a lot of people are talking about the names and everything involved with programming languages, specifically Erlang. And that's one thing I want to point out is, if you're going to pick a language, make sure it has a good manly-sounding name like Erlang. Somebody's like, what programming language do you know? I know Erlang! That's amazing right there. It's like, unlike, and I'm not saying Haskell's bad, but when somebody's like, you know, what programming language? Like, oh, I know Haskell. Oh yeah, well I know Erlang. Recognize the Erlang.
Yeah, it does sound kind of violent, doesn't it?
It does. It really does. Clojure's got kind of like that medium, you know. I know Clojure. That sounds like a ritzy sounding name, you know. It's like, oh, I know Clojure. Clojure is my language of choice. So I do terrible.
Language for the rich people.
I do terrible accents. Yeah, it's the language for the rich people. If you want to be rich, learn Clojure. That's your selling point. That is your selling point. So actually, speaking of learning Clojure, if you're actually interested in just trying it out, for those people who are watching the stream even, you can open up a browser and use the URL tryclj.com, which is a website that was created by Mr. Grimes here, which is you can actually use Clojure language right in your browser, and it actually has like a whole tutorial and everything that you can go through and just pick up the language. So what brought about you creating this site?
Well, I actually hadn't been using Clojure that long when I made that. It started out really crappy because this was my first website ever in any language.
Yeah.
And even now, I am not a designer. I can't do it.
I'm the same way.
This design was actually Andrew Gashevitz. His last name is not spelled like it sounds, so don't even try to Google it.
Gashevitz. Bless you.
But most of what I did was the back end, and I did the basic design, and he spruced it up, gave all the pretty buttons, the logo, and all that.
It does have a pretty good layout to it. It's very simple, minimal, and I'm a very big fan of minimal design.
Try Haskell was what we took inspiration from.
Yeah, I'm going to Google try Haskell. Try Haskell. Why don't you try Haskell? It's pretty cool. They're saying that.
Calm yourself.
Yeah, I can actually see the design that you've taken from the Try Haskell site. Looks very similar, but it's got a few changes. Most importantly, logos, colors, and the name. I'm glad you changed it from Try Haskell to Try Clojure.
Yeah, that was a good idea.
Yes, Haskell can sound evil. People are complaining that Haskell sounds evil if you say it right, and you know anything can sound evil if you say it right. Care Bears attacking you in the middle of the night, suffocating you with their stuffing. See, Care Bears sound evil now. I just made Care Bears sound evil. You're welcome.
I'm terrified of Care Bears now.
I have ruined Care Bears for everyone tonight. Care Bears. Care Bear stare. Good luck, Bear. Coming to wish you a happy birthday. Haskell. The Care Bear language. Okay. So back on track. We will talk about, speaking of names, we'll put that towards the end. I'm rearranging my tabs right now because I can. How about you tell us about the Reference Heap? That's an interesting site. I'm going to look it up right here for people to see it.
Yay, the Reference Heap.
Your pride and joy at the moment, right?
Yeah, I love that thing.
So tell us about the Reference Heap. What inspired you to create this?
Well, I mean, I was bored. That's about it. Well, you know, I'm writing a book, right?
Yeah.
And Try Clojure is the only website I've ever written, and that's bad because a chapter of my book has to be about web development, you know?
Yeah.
So I kind of need some experience there, so I figured I would write a paste bin, and it turned into this. I mean, I got another guy interested, Alex McNamara, and he's the one that designed a lot of it. I mean, I did a design first, but he changed.
It's got another minimalistic look to it than design, much like the Try Clojure.
Yeah, he changed the colors and, you know, rearranged the buttons and stuff, and he made it look pretty nice. But I mean, it just started as a little hobby project first, but now I'm trying to turn it into, you know, something better than, mostly I want to make it better than GitHub's gist.
Yeah.
That's my goal.
Perhaps you should tell us what the reference heap is, like what it does.
Yeah, yeah. It's a paste bin,
Yeah.
you know, like pastebin.com. You got some code.
Yeah.
You want to share some code with somebody that isn't online anywhere. You paste it into this big black box. That's actually an editor, by the way. It's a real text editor.
Yeah, use Clojure.
Yeah, yeah, it's great. And then you select the language, and then you hit paste, and it'll syntax highlight that for you, and you'll have a link that you can give to your friends.
Yeah, I actually signed up for an account. I would definitely tell people to check it out. You know, it's a really interesting pastebin site. It's so easy. It's got the pigments for highlighting and everything. It's really easy to sign up. It uses browser ID, and you can mark things. It's got all the necessary things that you'd expect with a pastebin site, except for short URLs.
Yeah, something I plan to add to it is we're probably going to add something where the URLs, you know how you get an ID where it's just numbers, or if you hit private you get a hash?
Yeah.
We're going to, eventually I'd like to add a thing where it's actual words, where you have actual words for the ID that you can pronounce. So you can tell someone to go to refheap.com/whatever, and you know, you can actually say it out loud and remember it.
Yeah.
That's something that I think Hastebin is another new pastebin site.
Hastebin.
Yeah. We plan to add revisions like
GIST does, or GIST, or GIST, or however you pronounce it.
Yeah, I think it's GIST. But we're
Probably.
We're gonna add revisions, diffs, you know, all the stuff that they have, and we already have something they don't have. We have the Clojure.
The editor.
Editor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to think of cool stuff to add to it to differentiate it mostly.
Yeah, it's definitely an interesting site. For those interested in who are using Clojure, Mr. Grimes here is your one-stop for all things Clojure. So if you want to learn Clojure, if you just want to dip your feet into the pool of Clojure knowledge, you know, just check out Clojure, tryclj.com. You know, do the little tutorials, check out the syntax, you know, see if you like it. If you find out you do like it, he's got a book that he's writing that you can learn more about Clojure through his amazing experiences. And say that's not enough for you. Say you're actually starting to get pretty good at Clojure and you want to share that knowledge. Well, guess what? He's got a pastebin site for you to share that code.
Yep.
He is your one-stop Clojure shop, right?
Right. Oh, and for the record, if anybody is interested in contributing to a Clojure project, a website, or anything like that, if they're interested in it, feel free to. I mean, I put everything that I plan to do with Refheap, even low-hanging fruit, stuff that should be easy, I put it on the issue tracker on GitHub. So
low-hanging fruit? That just sounds so terrible.
That's what, yeah, but I've actually heard that term used.
That sounds like... That sounds like something that bad news you hear from a doctor, but you don't want to say the actual words, and it's like what did the doctor say? I got low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually heard it a lot. You know, that's actually a pretty widespread term for easy things. But anyway, if anybody is interested in contributing to a Clojure project, check out the issue tracker for Refheap. It's on GitHub.
Yeah. If you
there's a lot of stuff there.
Also the IRC channels on Freenode. One is the Clojure channel, and then also Refheap channel is the thing that you'll find Mr. Grimes in most of the time. Probably all the time if you're into IRC. You know, I don't know. Some people aren't into IRC these days. Can you believe that? What jerks? What jerks?
Yeah, IRC should be ubiquitous.
You gotta drink my Powerade, you know. Gotta keep that energy up for the show. Speaking of which, oh god, I still got like 50. I did not have that until time. 25 minutes. I was about to say 55 minutes. How about we go into a little more about the languages itself? well, coming back from the whole topic of what projects you're involved with, because we can all see that you are heavily involved in Clojure and your book, your sites and everything. I want to talk about, because we were discussing languages and stuff like this, and you've linked this to me, and it looks very interesting, I guess I would say. I don't know, you seem to be picking it up a little more than I can. We've been experimenting with this language. Me and Grimes have been experimenting together. But he showed me this language called Elixir. It's a new language that's it's basically Erlang, or based on Erlang. Erlang! Tell us about Elixir, which is based on the Erlang VM.
Yeah, Erlang is cool. Erlang's really, really, really new. I mean, like late 2011 new. It came out really recently. It's made by this guy, Jose Valim, or something like that.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot from Clojure, which is probably one of the reasons I'm so interested in it. And it's also heavily based on Erlang. It's on the Erlang VM. It compiles to the same thing Erlang does. You can call Erlang code really easily, and I imagine that once you compile Elixir code, you can call it from Erlang really easily. I'd say it's more of a alternative syntax for Erlang than an entirely different language, but it is an entirely different language.
Yeah, and this is a great example of what we were talking about other languages. This is a fairly new language. There's a lot of stuff that it's still working with that doesn't have the other language. That's mostly, you would say, it's commonplace in a lot of languages.
Yeah, it's really new.
Yeah, they don't. Number one, they don't have a try Elixir site. How am I going to get involved with Elixir if they don't have tryelixir.com? I don't know. I haven't actually tried that URL.
I guess I have to do that, don't I? They're going to make me do it.
I know that you've been actually messing around with the language and picking up pretty quickly compared to me. That I've actually tried it in their console, the Elixir console thing, and messing around with it. I have never messed with Erlang before. Erlang.
Yeah.
So
Believe it or not, I've never touched Erlang ever.
Never? It's probably because the syntax, like you said, it's kind of, I believe you mentioned it to me, it's kind of looks like Clojure code. Clojure, a little bit of Ruby.
A lot of Ruby.
Yeah, in fact, on their site, I believe they mentioned Ruby as some of their inspiration.
Yeah. He's actually one of the bundler guys.
Yeah, and he mentions Clojure in talking about its polymorphism via protocols.
Yeah, protocols and def records, those come directly from Clojure.
Death records. Was that death records?
Yes, DEF.
Okay, because I was about to just get all over that word.
But yeah, one of the cool things about Elixir is that it is homo-iconic. That's one of the things that are so great. It's so great about Lisp. The thing about it is, that's the reason that Lisp has S expression syntax. That's why it has all the parentheses. But it's well known that you don't need the parentheses, the parenthetical syntax, in order to have homoiconicity. But this is one of the few languages that are actually doing that.
Yeah.
It's really cool. I mean, I can't really explain homoiconicity in the time allotted, but go look it up on Wikipedia if you don't know it.
And this is one thing I wanted to point out that was brought up in the chat channel. This is why I love doing this as a live show, because I can't read the chat all the time. So 100%, you might say something, I might miss it because I'm doing a lot of stuff here. But Ishkabibble?
Yeah, you got it.
Just know, for future reference, I said it here in episode number 2, I'm going to butcher the crap out of some of your people's names. I'm just going to sometimes I might pronounce your rank wrong just completely on purpose. So Ishkabibble pointed out that a different language is often it's kind of like on the eye of the beholder kind of thing, what you're used to. You're used to Clojure. So this language may not look that different to you, but to me, coming from well, I do a lot of Ruby development. It does look very similar to Ruby in some aspects, but there are some things involved with Erlang that just, it's just crazy.
Yeah. When I look at Elixir, I see three things. I see Haskell and the pattern matching and the lists, and I see Clojure and the homoiconicity and the def records and protocols, and then I see, what else do I see?
I have no idea.
What did I say? I said Haskell and Clojure.
Haskell,
Clojure.
Clojure.
And Ruby. Ruby and the syntax. I've used all those languages. I've used Haskell, Clojure, and Ruby for real code. So it makes sense that Elixir, it's pretty easy for me to pick up.
Yeah. So this is how I pronounce your name. So they're talking in chat, about some people's names. And this is how I pronounce your name. Be mine. That's how I pronounce it. Be mine. That's how I pronounce nines. Mine. 7, 8. Mine. It's just the way I do things. B9. I know it's B9. B9. 9. You should do like 3 9s at the end. It's like B999. 9. All right. So let's see. We talked about the Web Noir. Talked about Code Mirror and pigments and such things that you use with Ref Heap. We talked about Ref Heap, the reference heap. Talked about Elixir. We've talked about so much stuff, and we still got a few minutes left. So how about we talk about other stuff? Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about you and me. All right. No, seriously, how is it that the process that you've been taking with this whole Clojure thing, how is it? I mean, what originally got you involved with Clojure in the first place? You said that, I believe I read on your blog talking about something about Diablo got you into what was it? The language Haskell. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Haskell. So Diablo got you into Haskell.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk about that then.
Well, I started programming after I played. Shit. Let me start. Where did I start at the beginning? I played a game called Diablo 2 that I'm sure everybody in the world has played at this point. And, it has this huge hacker community, and I ended up in one of their IRC channels, and there's a guy there that was a Haskell programmer by chance, which might seem surprising when Haskell isn't, a very well-known language. But yeah, by chance, he was a Haskell programmer. If he would have been a C++ programmer, I might be a different person right now, but he wasn't.
Just so happens that you got involved with Haskell. Haskell.
Yeah, I ended up learning Haskell, to some extent, and writing some stuff in it. I played with C# and some other stuff, but Haskell was the first language that really clicked. I was in that community, so a lot of people talk about Lisp there too, because there are functional things about Lisp too, especially.
You come across the elitist Lispers.
But yeah, I just wanted to check out a Lisp, and it ended up becoming my go-to language, and now I work with it for a living.
The funny thing is that the one thing that this is the way I think, is that you got a lot of these older languages that have been around for a while, C++ or just C in general. You got assembly, which is actually considered another language because it's not in popular use. So you got these languages that not many people get involved with for a couple reasons. Be it that they're just too complicated for some people. They can't wrap their heads around it, which, some people can't. That's understandable. I know some people that can't figure out math, and I look at them and I'm like, why can't you understand this? Some people just can't. It's weird to think that way, but some people just can't. So that's one factor. Some of those elitism and stuff, and when these people are actually struggling to get into these languages and learn them, they run into these people that just, tease them and make fun of them. It's like, how do you not know anything about pointers? You point-tard?
Yeah.
So that's another reason. But the one thing I'm noticing is that these languages are going to end up getting overshadowed by these newer languages at some point when these newer languages are growing in size and their mainstream popularity. And that stuff like, I keep bringing up Ruby because I use it a lot. Ruby is gaining a lot of popularity, especially in the web development community through stuff like Rails. And there's like all these other web frameworks for Ruby as well. So
Sinatra and stuff.
it's a language that's fairly straightforward, easy to grasp compared to something like assembly. And it's got so much power to it as well through all the gems that are, and people just create these things like crazy, you know. I remember programming in C++ or C sharp. No, it was probably C++, and I was looking at a way to how to do something, and I needed a library or something in order to make this possible. So I looked it up, and the only one I could find was like one online. It cost like, you know, $100 or something like that. I was like, I'm not gonna pay that. But now you got languages like Ruby that this stuff is just freely available on. You can just download it right through your console. Just say, you know, gem install, and bam, you got that library.
Yeah, I have a gem. I wrote a gem.
Yeah, Ruby Heap.
Yeah, I've been there.
I wrote a couple gems. I have the one for the Dreaming Code API that's not really an official thing, just something I put together out of the boredom. But it was an interesting experience. But these sort of things this is one of the things, and some people are going to, you know, argue otherwise, of course, because, you know, not everybody's got the same. I mean, you can't compare you can't compare some languages with other languages. It's just uncomparable. That's like trying to compare brainfuck with low code. You know, they're two obsolete languages, but they're just completely different.
Yep.
But there's certain things that I think that a lot of people are coming to expect, and that's one of the things that I find one of the best things about. I believe Clojure's got the same system. It's just the ability to use these libraries so simply, just to say, hey, I want this library, downloads it, require it. Now I'm set up.
Yeah.
You know, the ease of code. Yes, yes, yes. I might as well mention that while I'm on topic. Ishkabibel's been saying in the chat about he wants me to talk about his brainfuck challenge. And it's so weird to say that. Why don't you try saying it, Mr. Grimes?
Brainfuck challenge.
Yeah, on what website? Let's abbreviate that website. I may not have got you to say dick, but I got you to say the Brainfuck Challenge on Dreaming Code. I actually do not have it loaded up, so I'm going to load it up, and you guys are going to get to watch me all of a sudden jump all over the place because I'm using my bandwidth for other things. So yeah, the creating a programming language is quite the feat. And these people that actually put these together, despite the obscurity of the language, they deserve a little bit of credit for just getting these things working. You know, a language like Whitespace and Brainfuck and low code, they may seem stupid and something that not many people would ever use in a typical situation, especially in a professional environment. But you got to give credit to the people that made these languages. I have no idea where your challenge is. Here we go. It's under C challenges. So we might as well point this out. It's that Ishkabibel's got a challenge that he's trying to get people aware of, and that's the Brainfuck Interpreter / Compiler challenge. And what he's proposing is that you create your own interpreter or compiler to run Brainfuck code. And this is an interesting challenge because it goes greatly with this subject, and that's the fact that Brainfuck is considered another language. It's one of those languages that's not in common use, as we've discussed. And we were just discussing that you really need to give credit to these people that create these languages. So if you, by creating a compiler or interpreter for this type of thing, or just any language, specifically Brainfuck in this situation, since a challenge involving it, it's certainly a way for you to get that sort of a knowledge and really realize the level of work that goes into some of these things. Not so much some, but you know, some other ones do have a lot of coding involved with just making that thing work. Wouldn't you agree?
I would agree.
Great.
I haven't done it.
Yeah, I would not say that it's certainly my cup of tea to I guess my phlegmy sick phase is catching up to the show. It's not my thing to actually be able to get involved in that stuff. I'm more of a web person, and the system side, compiler, interpreter things seem way too low level for my tastes. But so we are going to start wrapping things up here. We have 9 minutes left, and the last episode went over an hour. So the problem was that the YouTube we managed to increase it to an hour thanks to number 2 Pencil's friend. But since it went over an hour, we had to make some cuts out of it. Some of those might have been funny. I don't remember. I'd hate for him to cut out something that's funny. Sometimes silence can be funnier than anything anyone ever says.
Just don't cut out my awesome. That's all I ask.
Silence. It's funny. You know it. Silence is funny. All right, yeah. So we're going to wrap this up so that we can be under that hour limit and not get cut anything out. So I'd like to thank Anthony Grimes, or Raynes from the forums, for being a guest today and discussing his experiences with programming languages that may not be considered mainstream. So thanks a lot.
Wait. I'm not getting paid for this?
No, I don't get paid for this. The only thing I get is hugs from number 2 Pencil. And a pat on the back and says, good job. Good job. Good episode. So I thank you for being a part of this, and I will keep in touch about Clojure and stuff. And I recommend to anybody who's interested in working with Clojure to check out some of Anthony's sites and his book that he's working on. When do you have an estimated release date for that?
Oh, God, no.
No?
There's so much work to do. There is so much work to do.
Well, I'm sure he'll post on the forums when it's available or coming close to availability.
Yeah, I'll probably have a challenge or something to give away some copies of the book.
That sounds awesome. Also, if you want to stay up to date with him even further, you can check out his blog that he's titled Bathroom Reading Material. It's blog.raynes, RAYNES.me. You can check out that blog. He's you're actually a really good writer, so I look forward to reading your book.
Well, thanks.
All right, so thanks for being a part of this, and we are now going to wrap things up. So, what have we learned here today? Well, we've learned that programming languages are various, and there's so many languages out there to choose from. Some may be appealing to you, some may not be, but that's all your choice, and that's the most important thing to learn here, is that it's your choice on which languages you enjoy. Just because a language is popular and mainstream does not mean that you have to learn it. It may be commonplace to, it may help you in understanding some things. It's definitely good to give it a try and try to get an understanding of it. But the most important thing to learn is that if you prefer an obscure language and you really enjoy programming language, then don't let anybody tell you differently, and just love it. Enjoy yourself, because that's what's important about programming, is having a passion for that sort of thing. So we're going to wrap things up with that, and you can consider that my little like the thing, remember the things that's in the G.I. Joe cartoons? They're little like my customer service announcement. There you go. My PSA. My little tip for you guys. Although the one thing I will say in closing here today, and you know what? I just realized that whole time I was still showing his blog. I'm sitting here talking to the camera, being all serious and everything, and all you guys are seeing is his blog. Okay, so seriously though, if you enjoy language, program it. But I do recommend branching out and trying new things. That's the important case with all sorts of things. My fiance is constantly telling me, he's like, you need to try new things. I'm like, I don't want to try it. I'm just a meat and potatoes kind of guy. Don't be that guy. Don't be me. You don't want to be me. Don't be me. But I will end this in one serious note. I'm going to get real close to this. I'm getting close. I got nothing. See you guys next week, and we will have Dogstopper hopefully on the show to talk about his experiences as a developer. See you next week.